3 of the 9 firearms on this list are chambered in .22 long rifle. That alone will lose half the comment section. But 500 rounds of .22 weighs under 3 pounds. 500 rounds of .308 weighs 22. When you're moving on foot, math is the only opinion that matters. During the siege of Sarajevo, survivors traded individual .22 LR rounds for food. 1 round, 1 meal. 4 years straight, 9 firearms. The number 1 pick was designed by the same man who built the AR-15. It costs under $350, straight into the list. Number 9. The Rossi Gallery, a pump-action .22 long rifle. Most of you didn't know this existed. That's fine. Most people don't think about .22 long rifle until they're 6 weeks into a grid failure and realizing their battle rifle ammo weighs more than their food. This isn't a battle rifle. This is a harvesting tool. Squirrels, rabbits, pigeons, raccoons. The small protein that actually keeps you alive between the big kills, and it runs on the cheapest, lightest, most abundant ammunition in the country. Here's why the pump action matters. Semi-auto .22s are picky. They need consistent powder charges and bullet profiles to cycle reliably. Hand them a box of bulk pack from the bottom shelf, and they'll choke, stovepipe, and short stroke all afternoon. At the range, that's annoying. In a collapse, you shoot what you find. You don't get to pick brands. You don't get to sort by velocity. You grab what's in the abandoned house, what's in the dead man's pocket, what someone trades you in a coffee can. The Rossi Gallery eats all of it. Subsonic, high velocity, hollow point. That corroded bulk pack that's been sitting in a garage for 15 years. Pump the action and it fires. Ammunition sensitivity is 0. 15-round tube magazine, 5 pounds even. You can carry this thing all day and forget it's there. Try that with a 12 gauge. You'll remember every ounce by mile 3. Street price runs $330 to $400 at most retailers. That's entry-level money for a firearm that solves the single most important survival problem: feeding yourself quietly, cheaply, and consistently. The honest take. This is a recent production gun. It doesn't have a 30-year track record. Rimfire ignition is inherently less reliable than centerfire. You will get the occasional dud round. That's not the gun's fault. That's the ammunition type. But for sheer versatility of what you can feed it, nothing in .22 long rifle competes. If you're still here after a pump-action .22 opened the list, you're exactly who this video is for. Now, speaking of keeping yourself alive when systems collapse, I've put together a complete Doomsday preparedness guide that goes way beyond firearms. First link in the description, that Rossi handles the quiet daily hunting, but there's a problem it can't solve. You need a shotgun. And the one most people grab first is the wrong gauge for half the people in their group. Number 8, the Maverick 88 in 20 gauge. This is the pick that makes experienced shooters roll their eyes. 20 gauge, the kid's gauge, the beginner gauge, the one your uncle dismisses at Thanksgiving. Here's what your uncle hasn't calculated. 20 gauge buckshot delivers roughly 75% of 12 gauge payload. At across-the-room distances, that difference is academic. What isn't academic is the 40% reduction in recoil. Think about your actual survival group, not the one in your head where everyone's a 6-foot combat veteran. The real one. Your wife. Your teenage daughter. Your 67-year-old father with the bad shoulder. Hand them a 12 gauge loaded with buckshot in a high-stress situation. First shot rocks them. Second shot, they're flinching before they pull the trigger. Third shot might not come because they don't want to fire it again. That's not a training problem. That's a physics problem. 20 gauge fixes it. The Maverick 88 is a Mossberg design built to a price point, $200, sometimes less. For the cost of one quality handgun, you can put a functional defensive shotgun in the hands of a second person in your group, and a third, and maybe a fourth. In a collapse scenario, armed people survive. Unarmed people negotiate from weakness. $200 changes someone in your group from a liability to a contributor. The limitation is real. You're giving up payload. You're giving up slug energy at distance. You're working with a cheaper action that doesn't have the refinement of its bigger brother. The safety is a crossbolt behind the trigger guard instead of a tang. That matters under stress with cold fingers. But at $200, you buy it knowing exactly what it is. A force multiplier for the people around you who can't handle 12 gauge. But the 12 gauge still earns its slot. And it's the only firearm on this list that passed military testing. Number 7. The Mossberg 500 12 gauge pump action. If the Maverick is the budget option for your group, this is the one you carry yourself. The Mossberg 500 has been in production since 1961. It passed Mil-Spec 3443 testing. The United States military told Mossberg to abuse this shotgun under every conceivable condition, and it kept working. Dual extractors. That means when the action pulls a spent shell out of the chamber, it grabs from both sides. Not one, both. A single extractor can slip. It can tear through a corroded rim. A dual extractor holds on. When you're cycling old ammunition you found in a storage unit 8 months into a collapse, that extraction reliability is the difference between a working gun and a paperweight. Tang-mounted safety sits right under your thumb. Intuitive in the dark, intuitive under stress, intuitive with gloves. Birdshot for squirrels, buckshot for home defense, slugs for deer out to 75 yards. Swap the barrel in 30 seconds with no tools. A short barrel for defense, a long barrel for hunting. One receiver, 2 completely different firearms. Street price sits between $300 and $500 depending on configuration. Here's the weight penalty. 12 gauge shells are heavy, bulky. 25 rounds of buckshot weighs roughly 2.5 pounds and takes up serious space. Reloading a tube magazine under stress is slow, 1 shell at a time. That's not a flaw you can train away. It's a design limitation you plan around. That's exactly why the 20 gauge exists alongside it. The Mossberg handles the heavy work. The Maverick arms everyone else. 2 shotguns down. Now the question every prepper gets wrong. Which handgun? Number 6, the PSA Dagger, 9mm. Gun forums will tell you to buy a Glock. They're not wrong about the platform. They're wrong about the price. The PSA Dagger runs $250 to $350. It accepts every Glock 17 magazine ever made, every Glock 17 holster, every aftermarket slide, barrel, and sight designed for a Glock 17 frame. It is a Glock in everything but name and price tag. Here's why that matters when the grid goes down. Glock magazines are the most common pistol magazines in America. The majority of law enforcement agencies issue Glock pistols. When you find a magazine in an abandoned patrol car, in a supply cache, on a trade blanket, it's most likely a Glock pattern magazine. The Dagger runs all of them. Magazine compatibility isn't a preference in a collapse. It's a survival variable. The firearm that accepts the most common magazines wins. 9mm is the most produced handgun cartridge on the planet, roughly 40 rounds per pound, manageable recoil for follow-up shots, adequate terminal performance with modern hollow points. You're not looking for the best ballistic performance. You're looking for the caliber you'll actually find. The honest take, the trigger on the Dagger is noticeably worse than a genuine Glock. Mushier. Less defined break. Early production runs had quality control issues. Some frames had fitment problems. PSA has improved this, but the reputation lingers for a reason. You're buying a budget gun, and you'll feel it in the trigger. The $100 to $200 you save goes straight into ammunition and training time. That trade matters more than trigger feel when you're 2,000 rounds into practice, but a semi-auto handgun has springs, feed ramps, magazines that can fail, recoil springs that weaken over thousands of rounds. The next pick has none of those problems. Number 5, the Ruger GP100, 357 Magnum, a revolver, 6 rounds, no magazine to lose, no feed ramp to foul, no recoil spring to weaken, no slide to rack. You load it, you point it, you press the trigger, it fires, repeat 6 times. That mechanical simplicity is the entire point. The GP100 fires both 357 Magnum and 38 Special. Same cylinder, same gun, 2 ammunition pools. That doubles the caliber options you can scavenge. Find a box of 38 Special in a house? It works. Find 357 Magnum at a trade post? That works too. In a long-duration collapse, ammunition flexibility isn't convenient. It's mandatory. The frame is overbuilt. Ruger designed this thing to handle a lifetime of full-power 357 Magnum loads. We're talking tens of thousands of rounds before anything wears meaningfully. Compare that to a semi-auto where the recoil spring starts losing tension around 5,000 rounds and the extractor might need replacing at 10. The GP100 doesn't care. It just keeps working. Street price runs $700 to $850 new, $500 to $650 used. That's real money. Worth every dollar for a handgun that functions identically on day 1 and day 3,000. The limitation is honest. 6 rounds, slow reloads. You're swinging out a cylinder, dumping brass, inserting new rounds one at a time, or with a speed loader, closing and re-engaging. In a multi-threat scenario, that's an eternity. That's why this is a complement to the Dagger, not a replacement. The Dagger handles capacity. The GP100 handles reliability across years of hard use without maintenance. Together, they cover each other's weaknesses. Now, 2 handguns addressed, 2 shotguns handled. The next pick goes back to .22 long rifle, and it solves a problem most people never think about until they're running. Number 4. The Ruger 1022. Takedown. Second .22 on the list. This one breaks in half. Pull the takedown lever, twist, and the barrel separates from the receiver. Both halves fit inside a standard backpack. Reassembly takes about 5 seconds. You now have a functional semi-auto rifle that was invisible 30 seconds ago. If you're bugging out on foot, every cubic inch of pack space matters. A full-size rifle strapped to your back announces what you are. It draws attention. It invites confrontation. The 1022 Takedown disappears into your kit. You look like a hiker. You look like a refugee. You look like someone not worth stopping until you need it. The 1022 platform has more aftermarket support than any other firearm in the country. Magazines are everywhere. Parts are everywhere. If something breaks, you can find a replacement. 25-round magazines give you genuine capacity for a .22. At 175 rounds per pound for .22 long rifle, you carry 500 rounds and barely notice the weight. That's weeks of small game hunting in your pack. Street price runs $400 to $500. The Takedown version commands a premium over the standard 1022. That premium buys you portability that no other rifle in this caliber matches, the honest limitation. It's a semi-auto. That means it's pickier about ammunition than the Rossi Gallery. Bulk pack ammo will run fine most of the time, but you'll get occasional failures to feed or extract with the cheapest stuff. That's exactly why both the Rossi and the Takedown exist on this list. The Rossi eats everything at home base. The Takedown travels with you. Pay attention to this next one. This is where it gets serious, and it's where half the prepper community gets it wrong. Number 3. The PSA 15. 5.56 NATO. Everyone tells you to buy an AR-15. For once, everyone's right. But not for the reason they think. The internet loves the AR for modularity, for accuracy, for rate of fire, for looking cool in photos. None of that matters when the lights go out. What matters is commonality. The AR-15 platform has more spare parts in American circulation than any other centerfire rifle. More magazines, more ammunition, more barrels, bolt carrier groups, buffer springs, and charging handles sitting in gun safes, gun stores, and supply caches across every single state. When your bolt carrier group cracks at month 9, you don't need a gunsmith. You need to find another AR owner. And you will, because there are 20 million plus of them out there. 5.56 NATO. 40 rounds per pound. That's the best weight to firepower ratio in the centerfire rifle class. You carry 200 rounds and it weighs 5 pounds. 200 rounds of .308 weighs nearly 9. That difference compounds every mile you walk. The PSA 15 runs $450 to $600. Palmetto State Armory builds these at volume. They're not hand-fitted. They're not match-grade. They're functional, reliable, and common. Exactly what a collapse demands. Direct impingement is the limitation. The gas system vents carbon directly into the bolt carrier group. It runs dirty. It needs lubrication. A bone-dry AR-15 will start malfunctioning faster than a piston-driven system. In a grid-down scenario, cleaning supplies and lubricant become consumables you plan for. Stock CLP now. Stock it deep. An AR that's maintained runs for tens of thousands of rounds. An AR that's neglected will choke inside a few hundred. This next pick is going to start arguments. Good, because it ignores the single most popular recommendation in the prepper community. Number 2. The Ruger American Ranch 308 Winchester. Everyone says to get a semi-auto 308, a SCAR, an AR-10, an M1A, something with a 20-round magazine and rapid follow-up shots. That's range thinking. That's internet operator fantasy. Strip away the supply chain, and those platforms become liabilities. Semi-auto 308 rifles are complex. They have adjustable gas systems, proprietary bolt designs, specific magazine patterns that aren't cross-compatible, and they're heavy, 9 to 11 pounds before optics. In a collapse, complexity is a failure point. Every additional mechanism is something that can break when there's no replacement. The Ruger American Ranch is a bolt action. You cycle it manually, pull the bolt back, push it forward. The round chambers with positive extraction force that handles corroded brass, dirty chambers, and ammunition that's been sitting in a damp basement for a decade. A semi-auto chokes on that ammunition. A bolt action forces it in and rips it out. 16-inch barrel keeps the overall length compact. You're not carrying a 24-inch varmint rifle through brush. AICS pattern magazine compatibility means you can use aftermarket magazines that are widely available. Street price runs $500 to $650. Compare that to $2,000 plus for a SCAR 17. This is your large game and extended range tool. Deer, elk, hogs. 308 delivers roughly 2,600 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. It's effective out past 300 yards in practiced hands. That's capability nothing else on this list provides. The shotguns max out at 75 yards with slugs. The 5.56 starts dropping energy hard past 300. The 308 reaches out and puts food on the ground at distances where you're still invisible to the animal. 23 rounds per pound. That tells you exactly how to carry it. This is not a volume of fire weapon. This is a precision tool you carry with purpose. 10 rounds in your magazine, 40 in reserve. That's a specific mission loadout, not a spray and pray platform. The limitation is rate of fire and capacity, 3 to 4 aimed shots per minute with a bolt. 5-round flush magazine. If you need to put rounds down range fast, this is the wrong tool. That's why the AR-15 sits one spot above it. They solve different problems. The AR handles volume. The Ruger handles reach and power. Together, they cover the centerfire rifle spectrum. Number 1. The Henry AR-7 Survival Rifle, 22 long rifle, third 22 on the list. This is the one that ties everything together. And this is where the Sarajevo math becomes personal. Designed in 1959 by Eugene Stoner, the same man who designed the AR-15. The United States Air Force issued it to pilots as a survival tool. If you went down behind enemy lines, this was in your ejection kit, not a sidearm, not a carbine, a 22 long rifle that breaks apart and stores inside its own stock. 3.5 pounds, 16 inches when stowed. The barrel, action, and 2 magazines fit inside the hollow stock. Snap it closed and it floats. It's waterproof in storage configuration. Drop it in a river crossing and fish it out downstream. It still fires. Street price runs $270 to $350. For that money, you get a firearm with a singular purpose that no other gun on this list serves. This is the gun you cache. You bury it in a waterproof tube at a waypoint between your home and your bug-out location. You stash it inside a wall in a secondary property. You hide it in a vehicle. You vacuum seal it with 200 rounds and 4 magazines, and you put it somewhere you can reach when everything else is gone. Picture this. It's month 4. You've been moving. You lost your pack at a river crossing. Your primary firearms are gone. You reach the waypoint. You dig 18 inches down. Pull out a PVC tube. Inside is the AR-7 200 rounds of .22 long rifle, a fire starter, and a water filter. You just went from nothing to armed, equipped, and capable. That's not a fantasy. That's what this rifle was literally designed for. The honest limitation. The AR-7 is not a precision instrument. The trigger is heavy. The sights are basic. Accuracy is functional, not impressive. The polymer stock feels cheap because it is cheap. It's designed to survive storage and neglect, not to win shooting competitions. Early production Henry models had feeding issues. Current production is better, but not flawless. You test it before you cache it. You confirm it runs, then you seal it up and forget about it until the day you need it. 175 rounds per pound. At 3.5 pounds total, you're carrying a rifle lighter than most handguns. The ammunition you pair with it weighs almost nothing. 500 rounds fits in a cargo pocket. That's not a range statistic. That's a survival logistics equation that changes everything about how you plan movement, caching, and resupply. If you could only grab 3 from this entire list, here's the answer. The AR-7 goes in the cache now. Today. Non-negotiable. The Ruger 1022. Takedown goes in the bug-out bag for mobile small game hunting. And the PSA PA-15 covers centerfire defense and volume of fire. Those 3 cost under $1,500 combined and weigh under 12 pounds. Add 1,000 rounds of .22 and 200 rounds of .5.56, and you're still under 20 pounds of total firearms weight. That leaves room in your pack for water, food, and medical supplies, which is exactly the point. 322s on a 9-gun list. The comment section will be loud about it, but run the math yourself. 175 rounds per pound versus 23 rounds per pound. In a world where you move on foot and carry everything you own, the calculator doesn't care about your ego. The guide I've put together covers the full preparedness picture beyond firearms. First link in the description. Drop your list below. Tell me which one you'd cut and what replaces it.